And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to Bigfoot Odyssey's Late Show. I'm your host, Brad Hatcher. With me tonight is our special co-host, Mr. Matt Larson with Central Florida Bigfoot. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing great. Can't wait to get Justin on here. I got a lot of questions.
Yes, tonight. Yeah, so do I. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. Justin's having issues right now, so we're waiting for him to pop back in. And our guest tonight is Justin Chernipeski with Mountain Beast Mysteries, the founder of that, and he's doing some really cool stuff right now. And so got texts and everything else coming at me right now, so we're going to wing it. Let me get through the formalities really quickly. This is a family show, so everybody, be mindful of that. And the other dog and pony messages are that we do have the best moderators here on YouTube. We think they're very kind and on the job. So everybody be careful. If you go a little goofy, they will time you out. If you go real goofy, you will be gone. And so our moderators are looking for anybody doing that. So we appreciate that. With that being said and done, we are still waiting for Mr. Justin to pop on. So Matt, what have you been up to real quick?
Well, I've been going out on the weekends. We just got back from Georgia. We went to, what was the name of that state park?
Let's see. I think we have Justin again. Let's try this.
All right.
How's this for winging it? Here we go.
He can do it. I know he can.
Hello, Justin. Can you hear us? Hello, Justin. Well, I think get something here real quick. Justin's getting it figured out. I just want to thank our friends Duke Spirits at Duke Spirits for supporting us. They are big supporters of the Late Show. I need to move my fingers. Y'all can see this is their rye whiskey, which is really good. It's good to drink out of a bottle. So kids, don't be doing this. I'm
so
old,
wrong.
so I can do that. I know it. Can you hear us, Justin? Oh, let's see if we can. He is having some issues, so he's just spinned out again. So Matt,
I think he's got some woo going on.
Yeah, he must. So anyway, I interrupted when he popped in. So tell us again what you've been up to.
What was I saying? Oh, we just got back from Georgia, General Coffee State Park. We went up there. We seem to spend a lot of time in Georgia this year. We've been the Okefenokee Swamp up there. Did about 4 or 5 days up there. Just got back another 3 days there. I have about 3-4 hours of video I still haven't gone through. But I tell you, General Coffee State Park was really, really interesting. They got these 2 campgrounds, and right on the outskirts of the campground, they have this little trail that goes around, and on the map, it doesn't look like anything. And when you get out there, you can't tell either because you think the elevation's flat, or maybe I was just thinking, Florida guy, it's flat. You got behind the campground, and it dropped 40, 50 feet right into a swamp, 50 yards out from the campground. It was really spooky. And on the end of the campground, of course, they put the playground. I'm thinking, oh, kids, Bigfoot, playground, swamp. Wow, this is crazy. And the trail right about the playground got really good. And we followed it up about 2 miles up and around to where they launched the canoes. And I tell you, for a campground in a state park, walking right out of your trailer onto a trail, probably the best hike I've had in a long time. It was really phenomenal. 80 feet elevation change, swamp, nice oaks, cover everywhere. It was the thickest woods I have seen in a long time. It was interesting. It was worth going back. So I don't work an area constantly where I work one area. I'm a landscape photographer first. And so I'm always going around and working different state parks with an eye open to capture a Bigfoot. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. One day.
So do you ever go out at nighttime, or is it just mostly daytime? Or, I know that nighttime can get a little trippy.
Yeah. Well, I'm solo, so I don't have a team. I've been invited out by a couple teams. Nothing yet. There's a couple good teams here in Florida that I really, really respect, and both have put out offers and said we're going to do something soon, November, December, once it turns cool. So I'm looking forward to that. But no, I have not done anything night. I think when I started about a year ago, it was November. I was on Black Rock Mountain in North Georgia, right there, north of Clayton. And man, I tell you, I walked out of the trailer and I did 2 weeks on Black Rock Mountain by myself. My wife was in an artist studio. I was traveling in luxury. Don't feel sorry for me. I was in an Airstream, but
yeah, that is. I don't feel sorry for you.
But I didn't know, because I'm a weekend warrior. I have a full-time job. I didn't realize that on a Monday through Thursday, there's nobody at the campground. And I got spooked a couple times just sitting in a chair outside my Airstream. Just fog rolls in at 10 a.m. You can't see, 2 spots away, and it gets eerily quiet, and only the camp host is there. And, you let the dog out and she freaks out. She takes 2 steps and leaves a leg up and does this, stare off to the right like something's there. And I'm going, what's going on? What's going on?
Yeah, that is can be a lot unnerving and rather trippy. And, that happened to us last weekend up in Oklahoma when Mark Copeland's mom let their dog out in the middle of the night, and they took like 2 or 3 steps, look, tail
and does that foot hang in?
Right back up. I mean, and we were of course sleeping during that. Let's see if we have Justin still trying to get back on here. So did you hear any sounds or anything crazy or without giving anything up?
No, Black Rock. Well, this past weekend, no. A lot of the things I find is after the fact. I really haven't. So I don't have a firsthand experience like seeing a Bigfoot yet. And my understanding is, a year ago when Justin was on here, he still hadn't either. So I wanted to ask him that question. But I'm very keenly aware. I'm watching all the time. I usually find things to look at whether it's pareidola, I bug Carrie with sending him photos, constantly. What about this? What about this? And then he sends me back, and Mark is asking, well, what about that? What about that? And I'm going, okay, what about this? So we go back and forth. But I find all of my things of interest after the fact, when you're going through it frame by frame by frame, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. I know Justin said the last time he was on here a year ago, like, I don't know if I want a close-up encounter or not, as close as Carrie had. I'm not sure. Yeah, I want to.
Here we go. Excuse me, real quick.
200 feet away.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, Carrie's thing was trippy. Here we go.
I feel good about this.
Justin, can you hear us? Okay. I can't tell if he's frozen. Can you hear it? Hello, Justin. It sounds so silly when you go hello, hello, hello. Let's hopefully keep our fingers crossed.
Doesn't sound like he's hearing us.
No, there he go. He locked up again. Okay, Carrie just sent me a text. He can't wait to get home.
You want to try to pop me out for a second and see if you can get them and see if it's a bandwidth issue?
It should be a bandwidth issue, because when we've had sit-ins before, I've had up to, as Carrie duly noted, 6 different people on here before. So one thing though, real quick, Carrie wanted me to do a shout out to Iron Dogger. She's got a great channel, and everyone should go subscribe after the show. So how about that?
Let me write that down.
Iron Dogger. So when you're out there by yourself, it's all you have is you and your dog, right?
No, my dog's 15 years old, 7 pounds and blind.
Oh, I just lost we lost a dog. Yeah, Murray Fisher just said not everyone has high-speed internet. I said, I get it. We just lost a dog who was 14 in January that was blind. She's ex-bird dog. So we've lost 2 of our rescues this year. And so, and forgive me, everybody, for going on a tangent on this one. But, you know, rescuing the older dogs and you know, having a blind dog it's a lot of work, but yet you get so used to it. You know, it's you know, anybody who rescues a blind dog or has a blind dog, my hat's off to you, because that's you know, you're a special person to be doing that. So
well,
for your dog, oh,
she's
she's
blind.
but
she's
when
happy.
you're out there, she could sense something wasn't right, though.
Oh, I trust her explicitly because I know her so well. Like I said, I'd let her out about 10 o'clock at night. As soon as she touched the ground, she was normal. She did step, 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 do her business, step, step, leg goes up, head cocks one way, always to the behind the trailer, and it freaked me out. And I just ran back inside. And I won't forget, it was a year ago, and they had the EDU had the country music, the making of all the history of country music on, and I ended up watching that 3 nights, 3 nights out of the 5 that one week we were there. But yeah, Black Rock Mountain was a little creepy place. It was a creepy little place.
How'd you find it?
Well, my wife and I are both artists, so she got a 2-week stay at a place called Hambidge, and it's an artist retreat where you go and find yourself, and you get these individual cabins, and you get to stay there and work with others, and all you do is get together for meals, but during the day she's isolated and working on work. So she was doing her 2 weeks there, and I thought, oh, I'll go to you know, closest state park and be right there and drive her up and drive her back, and I'll get some time alone in the Airstream. Well, the closest park was Black Rock Mountain. It wasn't a joy to get up it. You know, I'm a flatlander, so once I got up it, I didn't want to go back down for 3 days. It was such a scare. No, I'm not kidding. It was like my aunt and uncle heard I was going, and they go, "You can't go to Black Rock Mountain." So,
really?
But yeah, it's scary.
Does it just have like a bad reputation in general, or a spooky reputation, or a paranormal, or Bigfoot, or
they do sell Bigfoot items, you know. I think, well, this is another Georgia park, but they do sell. I have a big shirt there. It says Black Rock Mountain big shirt, Bigfoot. It's just a lane and a half size road, not quite 2 lanes, and it's about 3 miles up this, about 3,600 feet, I think, with the highest point in Georgia, highest state park in Georgia. It overlooks the Blue Ridge. It's beautiful. You're really, really high up, and some places just doesn't have a guardrail. And if you put a tire off the road, you're basically in a 3-foot, you know, runoff drainage ditch. You know, that's very steep and right there on the white line. There is no room for error. Yeah, so
I've done that before. So I flipped a trailer one time, leaving a hunting camp, and left it there. So I understand when that happens.
Yeah. Well, I was okay when I got up there, but the woman said, you know, she goes, "Yeah, last week somebody flipped the trailer on the way down." The same thing you're talking about. I went, "Oh no," but we made it. I did all right. I learned a lot. But that was my first Bigfoot outing at Black Rock. Was the very first time I actually said, I'm going out with a camera specifically to do XYZ. And my very first video on my channel goes all the way back. It starts right there. And, you know, I walk up to a little thing. I go, and then I hear a crash. I mean, I whistled, crash. And I went, okay. Kind of walked back to my trailer and, you know, did a couple more things. But, yeah, it was active. A lot of signs. A lot of forest language going on.
That's you know, to have something happen like that right off the bat is
kind of
fun. But I definitely would rather have somebody with me than you know. And believe me, I understand how the blind dog is, and that's you know. But I tell you what, for your dog to have that kind of sense is just incredible. I mean, that's really cool. So you know, I think that's awesome.
And she told me exactly where it was. And the next morning when I went out behind the trailer, I did the old, let's go walking. And there's a trail going out behind my trailer. Of course, there's a big tree falling over. And I went, oh, that's interesting. I walked back down, you know, it drops like 20 feet. The sites are literally here. I was here, 20 feet, 20 feet, 20 feet, 20. It just steadily goes down each site, and walk down to the next one, trail going out the back. It was like literally a 60, 70 degree slope. You're literally on a ridge. And I walked out the back of the second site, tree falling over. Walked down to the third site, 30 feet down, trail, walked out, looked at, tree falling over. It's the very first video I've ever done. And I went, interesting. So I'm actually seeing what all the other channels were showing. And that was a great way to get hooked right off the bat. I went, okay, I'm finding stuff.
That is cool. Just to let you know, Justin is still trying to get on. I see him pop up on it, and then it just kind of spins again. So that's why I'm not bringing him on yet until hopefully. Yeah, no kidding. And I hope it's not from my end, because, you know, like somebody commented, you're right. Everybody doesn't have high speed internet, and I personally out here, I use the hotspot off of my iPad just because I get better than trying to hook it back up into the house. So, you know, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. And I just got a message from Justin. He says, I don't know if it's going to work, my friend. This country internet is killing me. So let me, so tell us more while I respond to him real quick.
Oh, I'm looking at my Justin's questions. I'm like going, man, I got to go really fast when he finally makes it on here. Let's see. So after BlackRock, I mean, we just, like I said, I move around. I don't work one area. I have a hot area here in Tampa that I do consider a spot. I have been there 5 times. It's the only area I've been 5 times, but everything else is hitting the state parks, you know, whether it's Highlands Hammock or Mayaca. I'll go to Mayaca, you know, in the summer and then hit it again in the fall or winter. I pretty much do them all twice a year, and there's probably about 6 or 7 that I hit. But like I said, we've been spending more time in Georgia. Haven't spent any time at all in Ocala. I just haven't been up that way. I know the Bigfoot guys are up that way, so you know, I don't want to run into their trail cams and you know, their happenings, because I don't know where they are.
Right.
So, and I know Green Swamp was you know, Trail of Bigfoot guys, and it was also Florida Sasquatch before he passed away. That was his area. And I got into this at about the time I started watching Florida Sasquatch. And I was watching him about a month before I heard of his passing. So that was a little freaky, but I was just getting into his videos and his works. And we have a guy out here called Florida Trailblazer, who's basically just a history hiker. And he goes out with a GoPro and he wears the same outfit all the time. And he goes all over these swamps, Green Swamp, you know, you name it. He goes, I haven't seen anybody do the stuff he does. And I religiously watch his videos basically because he shoots aiming back at himself over his shoulder. So I'm constantly scanning his videos looking for something, but he never responds to anything. He hasn't ever mentioned anything Bigfoot related. He's simply all about history. But we have some great people here in Florida doing some really good things. It just it stinks sometimes being solo and trying to find someone you trust to go out with and who can. I mean, for a part-timer, I go out a lot. I mean, I'm out in the field a lot. I have a lot of hours in the field, and I have even more hours watching other people's videos, learning and, you know, knowing what to do, what not to do, and looking at camera work, because my background is photography, and I got into this because I got sick of looking at bad video. And I wanted to improve it and try to help people. I mean, if we all got a little bit better on the video quality and quit using GoPros as our standard, you know, because, you know, people don't realize when you're shooting 1080, you can sit there and say you're shooting 1080p or 4K all day long. But if you're shooting 4K with a crappy camera, it's still crappy 4K. So you got to have, it's all about the optics. And I'm not a sharp, you know, sharpness is not my key. My fine art is very soft focused, dreamlike, plastic camera, toy cameras. That's where I've made my name. On the art side, but when it started coming to Bigfoot, I realized, you know, okay, why is everybody getting the same results? Why is everyone getting? Why are we looking at fuzzy tree stumps or branches or twigs, or even if it was a Bigfoot and you blow it up, you'll never see it. I mean, I'm using super high-end gear, and sometimes when I see something, I'll send it to Carrie. It's not blurry, but you still can't tell if it's a Bigfoot. So we just got to get better with our gear. Let's bring them in.
Here
ready?
we go. Yeah.
All right.
Can you hear us okay, Justin? I tell you, he's very stoic looking.
What if he tried it with the camera off?
You know, and one thing I'm thinking about too, and you made me think about this, is my iPhone has a different hotspot variable. So I'm almost tempted to pause the broadcast right now and flip it over from the hotspot from my iPad to the iPhone. What do you think about that?
I'm fine with it.
Okay, let me see if I can do this. Let's see. Of course it's not. Here we go. So this is on the fly fun and games. See if it pops up over here. If I could sing, I would sing for everybody. But I really do want to get Justin on here because I think it will be good. So let's see if it will show itself. Hold on, everybody, real quick. Just keep your fingers crossed. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, good. I just flipped it to the old iPhone. So let's see if we can get, if Justin can pop back with that. So I can't remember who made the comment about the high-speed internet. Believe me, I wish we had high-speed internet here. So let's see if he can pop back on. But anyway, so where are you finding these spots to go to, Matt? Or are you just from other people, or just researching it, or how are you doing this?
You know, I'm really just going to places I want to go to, and I'm hitting a lot of state parks and a lot of county parks and that sort of thing. In Florida, we have just an abundance of, just greenways. I mean, University of South Florida, I'm right by Raymond James Stadium. So I'm like a half mile. I'm a half mile from where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play. I can jump in my car in 40 minutes, be in what I would consider my hotspot. And I would love to find someone like a Mark Zasky or Carrie or someone to come down here and just walk this thing with me, because just the stuff I had going off on my channel, on the one video, if you just go to my channel and look at the one that has 8,000 plus views, that day was so creeped out. I mean, I didn't feel creeped out, but everything was happening around me to the point where I didn't even know it was happening around me. So I'm going where I want to go. I'm just going where I want to go, and I'm just keeping an eye out. I'm just paying attention to my surroundings and listening to you guys and this channel and all the channels out there. I mean, I do over listen to all the other channels. I think there's something to learn from everybody.
Right.
I'm just getting a little sick of the posting of, with the titles, I caught Bigfoot, where no, you didn't catch Bigfoot. So,
well,
at least I can't tell it's a Bigfoot.
Now, and I'm sure a lot of people are, let's see, I just got another message from Justin. He's still getting this over and over, and screens won't load at all. Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you carry a firearm with you, or what are your thoughts on that? Because I know that a lot of people, yes and no. I always carry a firearm with me. And I know Carrie does as well.
I do, but in the video I'm talking about that has 8,000 views on my channel, when everything was happening, I didn't even remember I had one with me. So, really? Yeah, I never even had the thought to pull it. I never even had the thought to be ready. I just kept losing my train of thought, and I started walking and doing a fake movement toward an area where I wanted to go. Just all heck broke loose with owls going off and a white egret following me, and a tree falling on camera right at me, 40, 50 yards away. And the day that happened, I was shooting with an iPhone on a gimbal, and I said, okay, I learned my lesson. The biggest day I've had Bigfooting, and I'm shooting with a dang iPhone on a gimbal, it was still pretty good footage that day, but I'll never do it again. I'm taking my Lumix. I shoot with an FZ 2500 Lumix. It's about $1,000 bridge camera, which means it's a 20 millimeter 500. So it's a wide, ultra wide to 500, so I can actually go out and touch something on that. Yeah, I was just saying that too. Can Justin call in with no video? I wonder if that would work.
See, truth be told, I don't know if we can do that with StreamYard. So if anybody knows that, that would be worth a shot.
Yeah, he just turns off his camera. He just selects audio only.
Okay, let's I'll send him that message. So fill in for me while we're doing this. So
yeah,
done. You got it was pretty freaky. You didn't even think about it. So that's
no. And I heard you and Carrie and everybody else talk about that too. Whether or not if these creatures exist, whether or not they know you have weapons. And yes, I do carry a 9mm MP shield. It's very close to me. Sometimes I wear it. Sometimes it's in my backpack. But that day when everything was happening, I realized when I got home and realized I had it and didn't even think about it, got me thinking, why am I even carrying it? Because I never even thought about pulling it. Because if there's one day I would pull it and have it, it would have been that day.
And you know what they say too is if there's one, there's two or three or four or five. And so, with the 9mm, forgive my French, and I don't know since you can say this on TV, I guess it's okay if you say it here, but if you hit one with a 9 and if it's not a noggin shot, all you're gonna do is piss it off. And so I don't know. I mean, I agree with you because I'm quasi on the fence with you because I have a Python, a 357, I have a 454 Casull, the Alaskan, and so it's so many people say that they can kind of sense if you get that feeling of should I pull a gun? Because your whole mindset changes if you're thinking you're going to have to pull a gun, and that some people say they can sense that. So if they're going to get you, they're going to get you, and you're not even going to know. I mean, you're still going to be, you won't even know that they're going to get you. So. I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for, carrying a gun. But I think that if anybody was ever going to fire one off, I mean, the 454 Casull, I would never take shoot at one. It would just that muzzle flash at nighttime, and the bam, the concussion would. I'm sure they haven't heard anything like that. But with that being said, Justin said he's going to try the audio. So thanks everybody in the chat for giving me some. Carrie's making fun of me. For Casull Castle, yeah. Anyway, so thanks everybody in the chat and as you as well, Matt, for the idea I'm calling in because I am not literate, and I actually want to take your class for just shooting with the iPhone. Yeah. I mean, I think it'd be, well worth the while because you never know when besides, going out in the field, I'd like to learn just how to do it better anyway, since the phone is way, I am way over my skis trying to take a picture with this thing.
Yeah. So, I think really the key is stabilization, no matter what you're using. I think stabilization is the key. Carrie said it many times and he's absolutely right.
Well, his camera, when we were shooting up in Oklahoma, the one thing that got me, and I did it twice, and usually I don't have to be told twice, but in this instant, the microphone was so sensitive that I was 30 yards away talking, and Carrie would just look at me real fast and go, and I'd be like, I'd be like, shucks. And then the next day, same thing was happening, but it was so windy, and it still picked it up. So. you know, I hate to say it, but I just don't know a lot
Wow.
about cameras. But his microphone is just trippy sensitive. You know, he's got the fuzzy thing on it, and like everybody sees. But you know, I don't know. That's why I guess I carry the camera bag. So, you know, and I said,
Hey,
you know, in honor of Terry. Say what, Matt?
no, I said there's nothing wrong with that. We all need someone to carry the camera back.
Yes, I'm good at carrying the camera, but I also bring the whiskey. Let's
There you
see.
go.
He's still he's still trying. So, you know, first off, let me say we have almost 200 people in the chat, and I appreciate everybody hanging in with us because we're 30 minutes into this thing, and I know Justin, what he's doing is just so. Oops. Let's try. Keep your fingers crossed. Okay, here we go. Justin.
There you go.
Hello, hello. Justin. Can you hear me? Can you hear us okay? Anybody out in chat land do a dance for this? Gosh, dog it. I know he wanted to be on here, and you know, Justin was on the 100th show that Kerry did, and you know what Justin is doing, and the way that he's doing it is so freaking cool. And you know, I was watching the one he put out the other day, and Justin's. Let's see if it'll hit. But you know, when he was putting together a saw, you know, this little bitty saw, I was just sitting there watching, and going, "Oh, that is a cool." Yeah, I was just mesmerized just by how meticulous, and I don't know if it's how he films or if it's just that's the way he is, but it's just really, it's almost in a goofy way soothing. And I don't want to sound stupid when I say that, but it just makes you just watch what he's doing even more intently because it's just kind of cool. It's kind of trippy.
Yeah, he has a really good shot list down. His composition is second to none. His composition's right on the mark. His framing, how he does his solo shots where he's setting up camp, making coffee, drinking his coffee. You just sit there and watch that stuff all day long. And it's not really easy to do that. You know, you know, he's throwing, I was going to ask him this to make sure, but most likely he's in a manual mode. He's pre-focusing on something that's where he's going to stand. Like he probably sticks a stick in the ground or a hiking pole, focuses on it, turns his camera in, walks in, and does his whole bit, which is all on manual mode, both exposure and both focusing too, so you don't have that jumping back and forth in the focus. So he knows his stuff, and that's some of the questions I wanted to ask him was, you know, what was his background in the filmmaking, you know, before he started making the Bigfoot films. I know he went out because his dad had a story to tell, and he talked about a year ago looking for the subject, which is really strange because that's exactly what I did. I mean, not my father, but looking for the subject and getting hooked on this and just saying, hey, you know, that's my field. Well, what can I contribute to it? And he's following the same path. So, you know, I had questions about, you know, his favorite camera body to his favorite lens. And, you know, and okay, Justin, you got 3 seconds. You hear something, you think something's going to walk out. What is your go-to camera? And what mode are you on? You know, is he a manual guy? Is he manual focusing and just keeping it at infinity and not having that autofocus come into play? Which, you know,
see, and I didn't even think about that because since I know he goes out, when I first started watching him, I didn't realize he went out by himself. Now, when you got to hike into 3 days of hiking, and you know, as I said, he's a big dude. I mean, he looks like Justin just said he can't see or hear anything. Son of a gun. You know, so he's a big dude. So the pack that he's carrying, he's got a lot of stuff in there. And so, you know, everything, all of his food is prepackaged, you know, where he boils the water, you know, does it just looks like it's god awful to eat. But, you know, he's doing it for a reason. Right. I mean, you know, when you're sitting there, you know, stirring your crap, pardon me, your stuff up in a little baggie, and I'm sitting there looking to see what he's eating because, you know, I watch it on a bigger TV, and it looks just like, you know, like it's all oatmeal. I'm sure it's something high protein and, all that good stuff. But the thing that's so, I think, cool about it is he even makes that interesting. And, I didn't even think about, is he putting a stick in the ground or is he putting his pack there? And, but he gets a lot of pics where he's walking to or from. So, I didn't know if he had a remote to hit film or, that's a good question for you since that is your, your job.
Right. And it doesn't even really matter if he has a trigger for it or not. When you plant a camera and walk over it or by it and down a trail and out of frame, guess what? You're turning around 2 seconds later, you're running back to grab it. You're doing double the hiking because you got to go run back and grab it, pick it up and set it up for the next shot that you pass by it. And that's a lot of work. I mean, it's a lot of work he's doing. And then the shots are really superior. I mean, they're planned out. And I tell you, I went back and watched his first one. What was it? Wild Man. This afternoon when Carrie called me and said, "Hey, you want to fill in?" I watched the whole thing and made tons of notes. And then at the end realized he had still a second one out and he was working on a sizzle reel he mentioned. So I haven't even seen the latest, but if it's anything like the first one, I'm a huge fan.
It's really, it's really cool because his last one, as I said, I think I mentioned earlier, he's doing a test run to go into this valley where he thinks and where his buddy and I assume they're buddies, but he interviews him like Ken, I believe his name's Ken Walker, the taxidermist, the world famous taxidermist. There's evidently wherever he's going there's a cave where rumored the Bigfoot go, Fabio here, where the Bigfoot go in winter, right? So he was going to try to see if he could go for like 2 or 3 weeks. And so this was just a test run. And, I mean, as I said, he looks like a tight end or a linebacker. And, his pack is super big. And one thing, how does he keep his batteries charged? Does he have like a solar on his backpack where he can actually plug in stuff? And the only reason why I'm segueing that way is I have a deal that I carry with me, a Spot, which is the oh shucks button. Like if you're by yourself and something happens and you're hunting, you can hit the button and they'll GPS you and send in the truth. And there's also a charger, a solar charger that you can actually use to keep that thing charged. And so I have one of those. And so I was, wondering with being gone that long, you can't take, and one thing too, he's got the big backpack, but he's also carrying a bag with him, which I assume is all camera stuff. So it's really cool. And then one of the neat things that came up, and I'm speaking for him right now, is when he got really, really deep in there, where he wanted to be, he ran into all of these trees that were pushed down, but in, all going one way, a whole bunch of them. And so a lot of people, so his initial reaction was, holy blank. Here, let's try him again. He's back. Justin, I'm telling all your stories. Can you hear us? No. Everybody cross your fingers. You got me doing the hair flip now. Can you hear us, Justin? I'll give him one more. I think this is going to be the last try. If we can't do this, we're going to have to reschedule. But
you're going to have to pass that whiskey back over here.
Here we go. Duke Rye. It's really yummy. It's good stuff. You can obviously drink it out of a bottle. It makes it easier. You don't have to waste a glass. My wife will hit me for saying that. She gets so twisted off at me for drinking out of a bottle. But, what are you going to do? Here's something that Lane just said. Justin's work is really artistic. And I agree with that. I mean, it's, I don't know how he does it. And, I could never do it. I mean, heck, in art class when I was in high school, I couldn't even draw, my art was stick figures. So, I got nothing when it comes to art. Can you hear us, Justin? Am I doing you proud?
You are.
Oh, no, this is funny right here. I am on a roll. Yes. This is one of those baptism by fire moments since I haven't been doing this very long. So Well,
Justin, can you answer all these questions?
yeah,
I'll send
I
them
wish
to
you.
him by email.
Well, we'll get him back on, and you can be on here as well too, Matt, because I know that this is right up your alley with your photography background, because he does do cool stuff, and part of what makes interesting watching YouTube channels is the background. And I always find it fascinating when you see really cool background when people are doing stuff. I mean, that makes, 33% of the video or 40% of the video is it keeps you hooked in. It keeps you locked into it. And, a lot of people, and I know there are a lot of people that lock into frame by frame stuff and see if they see things. But, his stuff is it's so beautiful where he is. I mean, I would love to go up there, even if I could be a camera guy for his expedition. It's just beautiful country, and my luck, a bear would get me or something like that. But we just lost Justin. But anyhow,
I was just gonna say I'll carry his bags any day. That's yeah, he would be a real treat to watch the work. I mean, even when I go out on a day trip and I'm camping in a trailer, I don't pull off the shots he's pulling off. I mean, you talked about battery power. I carry one of these Red Fuels, and they're car jumpers, but they charge an iPhone like eight times or so before it runs down.
Oh, wow.
But it's still heavy. It's small, but I mean, you can see, not that much. They're great, but that's a couple pounds. I mean, I wouldn't want to put that in my backpack and then charge everything at night and do the shots he did. And the one thing I wanted to point out in his first film, when he did the bit with the headlamp, and it was the sun was going down and his main key light was nothing but a headlamp. Right. And to get that and to nail that exposure and to work in a minute and a half of video with that type of lighting was just phenomenal. I was just like, whoa. And so I saw he was shooting with Nikon, but I thought I may have seen a Sony there too. So I wanted to ask him about that. Yeah, I'm shooting with a bridge camera, and mainly because I don't want to carry lenses. I don't want to switch photo. And I know he's doing it with the real gear. But I think I'm going to change a lot of people over to bridge cameras once they see some of the stuff I'm getting. So I think the bridge cameras are the way to go.
One thing that's interesting, and I never really realized how hard it's literally right now, how hard it is to get a shot like what he gets. Because you see some people that have the GoPro on a little bitty thing that keeps it, what the gimbal or whatnot, and putting them on the back or whatever. And I didn't know if that's how he was doing it, just because I just didn't know. And I think that it adds a lot of benefit and credibility when somebody can think about what kind of shot that they want to get while they're doing this. Because everybody when it seems like when everybody gets a shot, their cameras, it's just it never comes through well. It's always blurry. You can't tell what it is, and I've really been rooting for him to nail that shot, because his stuff is just so clean and crisp. But the last 2 or 3 weeks, he's put out some footage that he cut initially, just to kind of add some more color, some more background to what he was doing and what he was talking about, which I thought was extremely helpful. It just makes it more interesting, I think.
Yeah, I made a note of that too. The John Bindernagel piece where he does this interview in his first film, but I was checking out his Instagram page today, and he uses those really well in his marketing, because what he did, he took that whole soundbite and laid it under drone footage, and it was just this drone footage going with John speaking, and it was just like, I went, oh, okay. It's like, the marketing guy learns a little bit today, because how he pulled that off just to get you to go to his YouTube channel and his website. I mean, that's someone who's working, not only making phenomenal films, but he's also working the website and the social media at the highest level, and he's not posting every day. And another note I made in his films is he's not rolling camera. Like when I go out, I had the funniest comment that I actually fell down. I literally fell down laughing. It was so funny. Someone posted, literally made a comment on one of my better videos. Wow, this is absolutely fantastic. Another 30-minute video of you breathing into your camera really loud. And I had to admit, I laughed. It was funny, but
that is pretty funny though.
If the person saw the rig that I was walking with, or the weight here that Justin's carrying, and what we're trying to do to bring you high quality, the comment kind of ticked me off a little bit, but it was just so funny. I had to laugh. I mean, I could take a hit. It was funny. There's no way around it, because I'm carrying a gimbal, so I really should have had it set up. But my rig is a two-handed rig, so I got a post and I got a side grip. And the camera comes up about 2 feet, and I got a 3-pound camera balancing on a gimbal up here at eye level. So, it's this far from my face is where my microphone is. So there's really no way around it. So I am monitoring my breathing a little bit, but and then walk like this for 2 hours. Go on a hike for 2-3 hours and carry a gimbal and a real camera that's not 12 ounces, and let's hear you breathe a little bit. So, with the quality comes some sacrifice. And so I'll watch the audio, I promise. But that was a funny comment. But the way Justin does it is just phenomenal. But he's not doing long shots. If you really look at his pieces, he's all about solitude, the loneliness, the search, thought-provoking. Everything is just these timed out artistic shots, fading to black for a transition. He's really good. He's good.
See, Matt, you're so spot on. You're so spot on, because you got to think, okay, I'm 3 days hike in the middle of freaking nowhere. And believe me, I want to be a little more strong when I say that, because I mean, he is, I'm sure he's got a sat phone, and other things, but he really is in deep. In his last film, he talked about not one person was in the valley. He heard nothing. Right. So, all he had was a pistol grip 12 gauge. And it wasn't a true pistol grip like some of the older ones were, that, the pistol grip goes down like this. It was more of a straight grip. And, that was all he had. And so, for myself, I couldn't do it. I mean,
I couldn't either.
I could do it with somebody if I had a buddy with me that I trusted. And what I mean by that is somebody that thinks like I do, views the outdoors like I do. I could almost, I know what they would do if something bad happened. I mean, you trust them. Let's see. I just got a message from Justin. How is this? I feel like we're doing a radio show.
That's all right.
Okay. Well, we're going to have to reschedule, but I want to go back to what you said, because that was something that I've thought about, but I haven't really focused on. But you really do feel, I mean, it's just so, I don't want to say it's scary, but it kind of is. But Justin, I believe also at some point earlier in his life, if he was in college or something, was a hunting guide. He's been a firefighter, if not currently doing some sort of volunteer firefighting type stuff. So he has a lot of experience, being out in the middle of bum blank, Egypt, I guess. I don't even want to say that because I could get in trouble. So it's not like if I wanted to go do something like that. I mean, he's got a ton of time and, days in the woods. So it's not his first rodeo on that, but you're right. He's able to grasp the serenity, it's almost like a Zen moment. And I think that's pretty cool. And I could never, I mean, I'm not an artistic person at all. So I find that I can't even figure stuff out like that until hearing you say that. And then I go, yes, you're spot on. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a great nail on your part.
Yeah, see, and my videos are kind of the opposite. You know, I started, well, about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, I really started watching Mark Abel's channel in Colorado Bigfoot. So I got used to the 45-minute, 1 hour, 1 hour and a half videos. They don't bother me because I like to see someone hiking. I can sit there and watch a hiking video, you know, for hours. It doesn't even have to be about Bigfoot. I mean, there's a
Right.
couple of photographers that have Appalachian Trail hikes and all, you know, Virginia hikes and the whole bit. And I'll watch them. Of course, I'm looking for Bigfoot now. And I actually saw tracks on one of those films, by the way, of
Oh,
someone
wow.
walking through a swamp. And I texted him back and gave him the timestamp and said, you know, you walked right across the Bigfoot track. He goes,
Oh,
oh,
it is.
wow, well, I didn't even see it.
Hmm.
I'll have to look it up and tell you which one it was, but it was a guy hiking in North Carolina, Virginia. He's up in that area. He goes out with buddies. He does a car ride. They drop 2 cars off and they do a 4-day hike, and he hikes with his dog. Someone that's listening know who he is. He's again another phenomenal photographer, and he does calendars. So you never really see his calendar work. If you go to his website, you will see all of the fine art that he does from these hikes. But the hike is what I'm doing, is just taking you on the hike. And I approach it like I go out for 30, 40 minutes, and I'm used to making a video 30, 40 minutes. I don't think anything about it until the guy made his comment about me breathing. And maybe that's not the best way to do it. But I believe that you need to be ready. And Carrie's mentioned this. The camera needs to be on. And if it's not on, you better have it on a setting that when you turn it on, you know, it's not going to jump to portrait mode, or it's not going to be on autofocus and chirping all over the place. You know, and that's what I wanted to ask Justin about is he hikes in a way where he's not taking you on the hike. He's taking you on a mental journey in the solitude of the search. And he's doing
Mhm.
this beautiful written. He's more of a writer, you know, he's more of a writer and storyteller, like a photojournalist, like what I have at the TV station. If you sent a photographer out, a videographer out to do a package, they would approach it similar to what Justin's doing, not anywhere as good. But it's going to be the same type package. He's making really nice packages, well thought out. The writing is top notch. The video is top notch. But he's not rolling camera like I'm doing for 30, 40 minutes and taking you on a hike, or Mark Abel for Colorado Bigfoot. We're out there specifically looking for Bigfoot, where if something jumps or crosses a trail, you see it too. I'm bringing you the hike.
Right.
Justice made me rethink that. You know, maybe I need to change it up a bit.
But you know what, though? And you know, somebody's always going to complain about something. You know, breathing heavy. I know when we had Brett Johnson on with Desert Sasquatch, so many people would complain about, you know, his camera would be, you know, pointed too much on the ground, or you could hear
Mhm.
when he was walking on, you know, he's up in the desert, so it's real rocky, and in some instances there's a lot of you know, pinion nuts and stuff, so it's making noise when he walks. You can't help that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just part of it. But you know, it is, even though it's kind of funny about, oh gosh, can you quit breathing, or can you, shh. You're just like going, you know, WTF. You know, but there's always going to be, and I can say that, I think, yes, I can.
Yeah, I think you're okay.
But you know, somebody's always going to pick fly poop out of pepper, and it's just part of it. But I think, you know, when you're walking around carrying, you know, something like you're talking about, you know, yeah, 2 hours of walking, you know, yeah, there's going to be some instances where you're going to breathe heavy. I mean, it's just part of it. But it's just kind of funny how people say that. But I tell you what, Matt, what I really am, even though we don't have Justin on, I think it's like we're giving him a good review on, even though I have whiskey, so it's Dean Martin Celebrity Roast or whatever. You appreciate it. One person got that, yeah. So that's good. You know, it's neat to hear from your experience and what you do to just, I mean, you notice those little things that it took me a lot of time watching his videos to start going, oh, wow, it's just always so cool to watch how he films it. It's just, you know, you feel like you're going with him. And for the longest time, I thought he had somebody with him filming.
I do too,
because I never read any of the comments, or you know, I didn't know what I just, you could click on it and see his notes in it. I didn't know any of that. So I just thought, oh, somebody's, doing a great job of filming him. No idea. So I think your take on it is awesome. And I think you're spot on, totally spot on. So with that, and everybody in the chat, you need to click on and subscribe to Central Florida Bigfoot, because this kind of in-depth acknowledgement or realization about somebody's how they film and their filming style that Matt's talking about, about Justin, who can't be here to defend himself. He'd probably say we're brown nosing him a lot, but it is what it is. But I think you're bringing. I mean, man, you're nailing it, because you're right, and I don't even think about it that way until you say something. Then it makes me go, "Well, son of a gun, you're spot on." So, what else do you like about what he does?
What Justin does?
Yeah.
Well, he mentioned a year ago he was working on a super edit, he called it, which we call in the news business a sizzle reel. I was curious about that. I wanted to hear about his. Is he full time? I mean, I take it that he's totally, which our listeners really should kind of know. He is set up as a GoFundMe, so I'm taking it that he's full time doing this. He's a full time filmmaker now, right?
Well, and I think he does that for his daytime, or he has a daytime job that involves
does he? Wow.
Filming and whatnot like that. Because I know that he set up a GoFundMe for, and let me pull this up real quick. Hold on, let me find it. It was because we talked about it when we were setting all this up today on Messenger. Quest for the Wild Man was the deal, the experience he wanted to go on, where he went to 2 or 3 weeks into this valley and was just there for 2 or 3 weeks by himself. So what he did, I guess it came out within the last month, and then he added some footage about actually the trees were all pointed this way because he thinks it's from an avalanche, and from some of his background and stuff like that, he was able to figure that out. But the Quest for the Wild Man was just for this 3-week film or 2-week film that he wanted to do about going into the valley and hopefully finding this cave. And the crazy part, he's going to do it all by himself. So
yeah, that's crazy.
When he's crazy. Oh yeah, but when he did this experimental hike, he was 2 days into it, and he said, I won't be able to do this for 2 or 3 weeks because I just can't carry enough food. And it's those little, like I said earlier, those little bitty packages. They look like the size of the old instant breakfast from the late 70s and early 80s. And he mixes it with the water, and you see him, and it actually looks like it's good the way he eats. But he would need a bush plane drop, or maybe just take a bush plane in to drop him off. Obviously, he wouldn't have a bush plane drop him off and then hike 4 days in. That wouldn't make a lot of sense, I wouldn't think. But so this was just kind of experiment to help him figure this out. So he has some really cool contacts that know a lot of trappers in Canada. A lot of the hunters that like to just not talk about what they shoot. A ton of guides, and so he kind of gets told where to go. And one of the interesting things that was in his last film that he did when he had Ken Walker on was that a lot of the land up in Canada is still First Nations land, Native Americans land, Native people's land. And like there was a place, and I don't know how long ago it was, but they found a cave like he was trying to find. And it attracted a lot of attention from Bigfoot researchers. And because it was First Nations land, they have the right to say, no moss, no, nobody else can get on it. And so one of the reasons for keeping where he was going so secretive, because he didn't want to get all this great film or discover all sorts of cool things, because one of the caves supposedly has just a gazillion bones in it. And the theory is that's where Sasquatch, after they kill their game or whatnot, they bring it in, and that's where they divvy it up, because the theory is that the Sasquatch go up to this one valley during the wintertime, or this one clan, and that's where they winter, is back in these caves, because these caves go on for miles. You know, it's really, really cool, and it's a theory that has been that a lot of people view as, you know, and Carrie will love hearing me say this. You know, I'm not going to say I'm going to say it is an opinion and not a fact, because obviously if it was a fact, we'd be talking about something else. But so that's what the theory is for this one area. So they don't want to give it up at all, because they don't want other researchers to go in there, screw it up, and then have the First Nations, you know, put a, you know, kibosh on it and mark it off limits as a tribal, like special designation. And I don't even know how to say it properly without sounding stupid, but it's you know, like I just drew a blank. My ice maker just went off, and I was just like, "What the heck was that?" So my mind went. It was a tribal land. So,
yeah, and I think anybody would understand that. I mean, you know, especially if you're not into the, you know, wanting to hurt the Sasquatch anyway, or bring undue traffic to an area that just because you went out and caught something. You know, I learned pretty quick watching a lot of the channels why I used to wonder why everybody kept their stuff secret and where they were at. You know, my area is from USF all the way out past Lakeland. There's a greenway. And when you go on it and look at a map of Florida, you can see from USF all the way out across the state, literally north of the I-4 corridor. There's this, you know, greenway that goes all the way out, and I guarantee you there's been nobody out there. And I think that's prime area in Florida. And where Carrie's going, you know, down where Zasky's at, you know, I started looking at that with topo maps too, and you know, you can get lost out there pretty quick. I mean, there's a lot of big areas, but then there's small areas like I found a county park where kids and families bike and hike every day of the week. It is super busy. It's right off Fowler Avenue. And I'm finding signs in there that everybody else would say is Bigfoot. And
right.
I'm photographing it, but my mission is to photograph the forest language, or the Bigfoot signs, the bins, the breaks, anything like that, the floaters, the teepees. You know, to me, it's an art project. So Justin's out making these films, and I heard him talk about structures. Being that I kind of grew up with Bigfoot watching Mark Abel, I have to say I'm kind of in the camp that if you're not seeing structures, but you're seeing Bigfoot all the time, I have a problem with that. You know, I think there has to be with any animal evidence of something. And so I do believe in structures. I do believe in trail signs, forest language, or whatever you want to call it. My art is built around the forest language, but I do think that that's what I look for. And so you asked me earlier, how do I find it? I go to state parks and I look for forest language, and I'm following the forest language, and I'm trying to make sense of the bends, and are they directional, and the ground glyphs. I'm seeing a lot of ground glyphs. What I find interesting, I'm shooting these floaters. I talked to Carrie about it. I'm seeing these telephone pole size, 30-foot long trunks of trees, the middle parts of trees, no base, no top, floating 30 feet high in county parks that are perfectly level. And I'm not seeing one or two or three or four. I'm seeing now 6, 7, and 8, and I'm seeing these little teepees that are 2 feet tall. I'm seeing them in 5, 6 different states I've gone through, and they're all built the same way. So I find that interesting. So you know, rock piles, you know, the trail markers with rocks.
Right.
I don't do the rocks. I don't do the rocks at all. I mean, hikers do rocks.
Right. I mean, you see a lot of that on the Appalachian Trail, as a matter of fact.
And I'm a big Appalachian Trail guy. I've read every book on the Appalachian Trail, and that's how hikers, especially people who go off trail, they make rock stacks. And so I can't say anything about a rock stack that I would say, oh my God, this just popped up overnight, or this wasn't here last week. So a hiker came through. I mean, I don't know how anyone can get excited over a rock stack, but that's
Right.
just me. And I'm not ruling anything out. I'm just saying I don't look at rock stacks. But then again, I'm in Florida, so I'm not finding rocks anyway.
Right.
I'm finding ground glitch.
But I mean, that's cool though. And when you just talked about it in, parks, you're seeing the floaters and stuff like that. I was just about to say, I live in the middle of Dallas. We have bobcats that walk down our fence in the middle of Dallas. I mean, we have coyotes in this neighborhood, and I'm in the middle of Dallas. Our neighborhood, is early, late 30s, early 40s. So it's not like a new community, but sometimes in plain sight is the best place to hide. Where people aren't even thinking about it. And I know from hunting and tracking and things of that nature, you do have to be aware of your environment, and it takes a while to recognize and be able to read your environment. And I think that's pretty cool that you're getting, you're liking you're knowing what you want to focus on, what interests you, but you're picking up on these little nuances that just take time to figure out. And my hat's off to you, Matt, for doing that, because that's pretty cool. I mean, and not everybody, I'm sure people are going to get me for saying this, but sometimes that takes a while to figure out, and other times it's missed. Everybody wants to go so far out where there's nothing, where they can be right under your nose and you don't even know it.
Yeah, so I don't have a death wish.
I agree, and what you did. I love Airstreams. I mean, nothing is cooler than a freaking Airstream. I mean, they are the best. But still, going where you went on the mountain, for 2 weeks, that had to be, very, it gets your attention. I mean, you listen, you hear, you're not falling asleep with your white noise machine on your iPhone when you go to sleep, even though your dog, I'm sure, is right next to you. And that is, every time when I used to hunt when I was younger, I would take my dog with me, and she would stay in the trailer. But yet at the same time, there's nothing worse than when you're asleep and all of a sudden your dog, laying right next to you, and the head goes up, because you can feel that, and then you start going, okay, where's the pistol? Am I laying on it? Whatnot. So, that's my hat's off to you. So do you want to, let me ask you this. We're about an hour into this, and do we want to see if anybody wants to ask Matt a question about filming, or just about anything in general, to what he's noticed in watching Justin's films, or if he wants to talk about how bad the Cowboys are this year, how great the Buccaneers are, Gronk and Brady, and why did they sign Antonio Brown? Anything like that.
Oh my God. That's a loaded one.
I tell you what, Brady wants it bad, doesn't he? Getting Brown, and nothing better. Everybody loves the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh chance. But anyway, I diverge. So we'll get back to the.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I can't believe we've already gone an hour on this, and oh, here we go. Mr. Lee 3POs asked, Matt, are all the books on your shelves Sasquatch related?
Yeah. No, I think I only have one book on Sasquatch. All of mine, I'm not much of a reader, so I tell you, I watch everybody, and Into the Wood was Jeff, Mark Abel. I watch, the Bigfoot guys out of Ocala. I watch On the Trail to Bigfoot. There's a couple of Pennsylvania ones. There's an Indiana Sasquatch. So I'm literally into everybody. You all had, or the other channel had the Squatching Cowboy on the other night, and he's one, and he's one, and I got a lot more respect watching that interview with him, because at first I was watching him, I've probably seen 9-10 of his videos, which I think is a lot to call or say something about it. But I kept saying, man, I just wish I could send him a gimbal in the mail and say, Just put your phone on a gimbal and your film is better. But when I saw the other night and what he was saying and his comments about his own self and what he was trying to do with his videos and the fact that he's out there having fun, and even Justin said it, I wrote it here, the quest is the adventure. I really like that quote from Justin when he said, the quest is the adventure. And that's really all I'm doing is I'm out having fun and doing it. And I realized the Squatching Cowboy was having the same thing. So when I first started watching his videos, I was really picking them apart. Like, wow, why is he, you know, hand holding it? And, you know, why is this happening? And there's so many times I wanted to reach out to people and say something, just because the end game is we all want to see a Bigfoot on film. We all want a video of Bigfoot, right. And we're just not. There's so many people out there researching. That's great. I love boots in the ground, but if the boots are on the ground, don't want to take, you know, 3 hours to learn. I don't care what camera you're using. Just learn the tricks of that one camera. You know, there's a YouTube channel on every camera out there. Just watch it. You know, watch how to put your iPhone on a gimbal. What does a gimbal do? What does manual focus do? What does program mode do? What does all these different camera setting modes? I carry 2 cameras. I usually carry 3 and 4 if you count the trail cam, 5 if you count the GoPro. But I keep one camera set. Before I walk into the woods, I do a light meter reading. I know what the light's at. I put it on manual infinity, because guess what? After 30 feet, where's the focus on a camera? It's infinity, right? So yeah. Why are we using? Yeah. So why are we using autofocus? So I take one camera, I do a light reading, I set my shutter speed to capture it. So I set it at 1/25th, 2/50th of a second. If they say Bigfoots are really fast, you want to probably be at 500th of a second. I put it on infinity and I throw it over my shoulder. So if something walks up, I can literally go, bam. And I don't even need to look through the viewfinder. I can just aim at that direction and I'm going to have a shot. I'm always prepared in that way. And then the other one's on a gimbal. And that's just how you have to approach.
And here's a question that just segues perfectly from the Iron Dogger. Matt, how do you deal with storage issues using your iPhone? And I know that, and I just read something that there's a way that if you, and literally with this new operating system, I read it up in, oh God, I can't remember. Anyway, that doesn't even matter. But I know that if you do when you get it to the hard reset mode, you can hit one of the buttons and it will clear your storage. Now, it was just on, and I don't know it well enough to tell you. Matt knows, so this is perfect. Matt.
So these are Matt's hard drive. So I carry these 2 terabyte hard drives. They plug, you know, I come back with my iPhone, I plug my iPhone in, everything goes straight to the terabyte drive. I unload, I back up to the cloud. My wife is going to come in here and say, no, you don't. I don't. But I do pay for a cloud backup.
I do too.
I pay for a cloud backup.
I do too. And
my
I don't like doing it. Yeah.
My computer, I'm with you. That's today, Bradley. It said 465 days. My computer gave me a message as I logged on tonight. It says 465 days you have not done your backup. But I do these backups, okay? So I have 2 or 3 of these. Even my iPhone folders, when I go out, if you look at my hierarchy of how I file photos, and Justin's going to be the same way. I have 2020 and with a folder in 2020 on my external drive. In the 2020 folder, I have 2020 Black Rock Mountain, 2020, you know, Okefenokee Swamp, 2020, you know, Green Swamp, 2020 Ocala National Forest, 2020, and then I go to 19. So if someone says, you remember in 2019, you went to somewhere, I go straight to the folder. I go straight to 2019. I open up the folder. Everything I file is 219, 220, 218, 217 with the state park. And I'm very consistent with that. And so when you open up my hard drive, everything is just super clean. And when I'm trying to edit now, what I'm trying to do too is when I make a video, I drop the video in the same folder. So if I edit the video on Black Rock Mountain, whether I do it in iMovie or Premiere, I will finish the edit and store the video in the Black Rock Mountain folder. So I'm not totally going crazy looking for stuff. So that's a great question. And
here's a quick follow-up from the Iron Dogger. Again, I love that handle, by the way. Went out in the field and no cloud access. So you do it obviously when you get home, correct? Or do you do it?
I do it when I get home. We do. We take our laptops and we download the shoot for the day onto our laptops. Every disc when we go out the next morning is already cleared. Iron Digger, is it Dogger?
Yeah, Iron Dogger.
Dogger. I wrote you down to follow. I don't go out with a full disc, and I don't go out with my iPhone full. So I make sure there's plenty of storage, and I know how much storage if I shoot a 30, 40 minute piece on my, I have an iPhone 8. So I know now what I can get away with. But again, I'm not shooting with this anymore. I learned my lesson of shooting Bigfoot with an iPhone, because when you least expect it, you pull out an iPhone, that's when you're going to get your shot. And, and you try to blow it up and you're going to get what everybody else gets. And guess what? Bigfoot, in my opinion, does not always come out blurry. It's the people who's taking the photos are trying to take a photo this big, and they're trying to crop in this big and show me a picture of Bigfoot. And I'm never going to believe it until I see a nice, crisp shot of Bigfoot. And no one can tell me it can't be done. So it can be done. We're just all doing it wrong.
Here we go.
Had a course in photography.
I'll do like ZZ Top and whatever that video was back when we were in high school. Mr. Lee 3PO asked, does Matt have a course in photography? As a matter of fact.
Yes, I do. For Carrie's Bigfoot Odyssey adventure here, when he was fundraising, I gave away 2 one-on-one Zoom. We called them Zoom classes, but they're really not a Zoom class because it's hard to teach photography over Zoom. But what I'm trying to do with the 2 I gave away was I've reached out to the people, and they are going to send me 20. I'm doing it like we do in the fine art world. And Bradley, you know this, being an artist. You send me a portfolio of 20 images. If you shoot, let's say, pets, I just need to see 10 to 15 shots of what you're calling pet photography. Once I see the level of you're at on shooting pet photography, I can then coach you and tell you what you're doing. Are you shooting down on the pets all the time? Are you shooting ground level? Are you putting your camera on the ground and shooting up at the pets? Are you lighting them in any way? Are you in a natural environment? Are you using sunlight? Are you using a reflector? There's a lot of little things I can tell from seeing 10 images. So what I do is what I would do for you would be, if someone wants to reach out to me and send me some images, we do what we would call a portfolio review. Send me to your YouTube channel. Let me go to your Instagram channel. Send me some images. Let me look at your channel, and then we'll do a Zoom talk afterwards, and I can tell you what I'm seeing. In this case, I asked the people to send me what camera model they're doing. I put together a complete, again, everything's on YouTube. So I researched their own camera, and I put together a couple of videos that I had pre-screened that I said, these are really good guys doing a review of this camera. So look at that. Then I went to pet photography websites, and I found 3 or 4 or 5 good, I'm just using it as an example, of how to shoot pet photography. And when I do the Zoom class, we will talk first, and at the end of the class, I will send you a file of things that I think can help you. And my wife does this in the fine art world. We do portfolio reviews all the time where artists come ask us, hey, I'm applying for a grant. How do I write an artist grant? Or how can you look at my silver prints and tell me what's wrong with my silver prints? Are the prints flat? Are they scratched? Are they too much contrast? Are they just, you're printing with dust all over them? We also do historic processes. So I do wet plate collodion, and my wife does salt printing. So that goes back to the 1860s, where
I was about to say,
you coat water paper. You coat water paper, and then you're basically doing transfer images and making the salt prints from the, it's really how photography was born, was with the salt print, moving into collodion, wet plate collodion, that sort of thing. So we're into the historic processes. So what I would like to do is take my Bigfoot imagery I'm doing, the forest language, the bends, the breaks, the TPs, the glyphs, and really turn them into some really nice high-end fine art prints where people that come to the gallery will not know they're looking at Bigfoot images. They will not know they're looking at trail signs. But it may come up in the gallery talk if everybody says, what are you shooting? What made you see this? How are you seeing this? And then I can tell them, hey, I tapped into the Bigfoot guys out there who are out there making videos and films of Bigfoot and started recording the forest language that's happening. That's what I call it. I think Mark Abel called it forest language too. So I'm probably borrowing that from him. But trail signs, trail magic, anything like that. So that's cool what I'm doing. And that's how I can help people. If you want to reach out to me and tell me what you're shooting with, share some images, share me your website, your Instagram, I can totally help you.
And I think Iron Dogger should definitely reach out to you because she's asking a lot of specific questions. And I think there are a lot of good questions. And she sounds like she really wants to learn. And, sorry, I said, and I'm catching myself doing it more and more often. And it just, that is the worst thing Carrie ever told me, which is actually the best thing is you say, a lot. Every time I do it when I'm doing this, I always catch myself and it drives me crazy. But anyway.
I haven't done it, have I?
No, but I have probably about 30 times. I'm sure Carrie will text me here in a little bit and he's counting. But, with the pictures that I take of my rescues, the best thing in the world that ever happened to me was when the iPhone came out with the portrait mode. And all of a sudden, I rescue Vizslas, and they turn, when they get older, they're a golden rust color. And for anyone who doesn't know what one is, they're cousin to a Weimaraner and look exactly like a Weimaraner, except smaller, and they're golden rust. But when they age, their face turns white. So you have this beautiful white and tan outline, and it almost looks like cinnamon and sugar, like when I was growing up, my mom did cinnamon and sugar toast. It's kind of that mix. And when the iPhone came out with portrait mode, I was getting some unbelievable shots, but it took me, I have 12, 13, 14,000 photos up in the cloud and on my phone. And because I just roll everything over. And when they come out with, more memory, I always buy the biggest memory that I can. But anyway, I'm diverging again. I think that if, I love what you're saying because I want to take a class and I want to send you some of my stuff, truth be told, because I'd like to learn because it's something that with this, let's see.
That's what a salt print looks like. That's Bigfoot imagery in salt print.
Oh, that's cool. That's okay. That's like Ansel Adams-y, right? Please say yes, because that's about all I know.
Yes. Yeah. What I'm doing is like the one image there on the right was a big X that I found out in the Okefenokee swamp out in Georgia. And what I'm doing in that image was it was shot with my bridge camera with my Lumix and then brought into an app called Snapseed. If anyone hasn't played with Snapseed yet, there's a lot of things you can do with your imageries after you take them also, if they're not so great, if there's an issue with contrast or exposure. But that image was shot basically with a high-end camera, brought into an app called Snapseed, Snapseed. You bring in the image, and they changed the app a couple years ago where you can actually take a 10 meg file, 12 meg file, whatever, bring it in a Snapseed, and it's basically instant Photoshop. It's a way where you can come right in on a piece of your photo and keep it sharp, but blur everything else. And then I do a blur on everything.
Right, let's see if you can see this. It's too bright.
Tilt it down a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
You can see it okay? That is a dog. This was a dog we rescued. He was 12. His name was Chili Dog. But you see the coloration on how it's white around his face, but it's like that cinnamon and sugar. And this one wasn't even in portrait mode, but I have some pics of, because we had 5 at one point. They were all rescues, and we have 4 right now, and we lost 2 this year. So I've turned into that crazy old cat lady that I thought my sister would turn into, but it's with dog. you know,
Well,
she said growing up, oh, I want to have a, anyway, I'm diverging again, but so that kind of, so I'm going to take your class. I mean, let's see, we're getting another question. Oh boy.
yeah.
Let's do this. We're about $1.30 into this thing.
They're really just one-on-one discussions, you know.
Yeah, and because we're getting a lot of specifics, and Carrie will put all your information, and obviously Matt Larson's channel is Central Florida Bigfoot, and he knows it. It's very apparent, and those pictures that what you just showed is so cool, and I'd even like to see. Can you like if I sent you a picture of one of my dogs, it's like one of my favorite pics. Can you take it like off something like that and then transform it into what you just showed me?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna talk offline then, because I have several pics of like my favorite pics of dogs I don't have anymore that I would love to turn into something like that. So
and
for
see,
everybody,
that's the problem. Yeah, I was just gonna say that's the problem with iPhone is that there's so many really cool apps out there that will enhance photography or do a fine art treatment to a photograph so fast, like making it black and white or blurring the background or upping the contrast and giving it a dreamlike feel to it, that you can do it in the field. So a lot of time I'm literally hiking and I'm literally working images while I'm hiking. And then I realize, wait a minute, you know, something's going to happen. And here I am playing with my iPhone. So when I go out looking for Bigfoot, I really keep my iPhone in my pocket, and it's the last camera I want to pull out because you really want something with some optics on it.
right here,
and you want to be on a gimbal.
Here's another. I mean, and Iron's just all over this tonight. Do you use a parabolic microphone in the field?
You know, I would love to, but being a solo guy, if I heard anything what Mark had heard, I would probably be running from my car. So I'm not real brave if I heard children playing or the Carrie Bigfoot speak when he emulates his Bigfoot. No, I don't know if I want to hear it that close. I want to see a Bigfoot, you know, through my long lens of about 300 millimeter, crossing from tree to tree, trying to run from me, but not coming at me. That's my goal. And I want to give a nice, clean shot where I can call up Carrie and Bradley and say, I'm ready for the research report. Put me on. I got the shot. And I do think I'll get the shot. I'm in an area where I honestly, I tell you, I went out playing a year and a half ago thinking I wouldn't see any of the stuff I'm seeing. And everything I'm seeing matches what everybody else is seeing on every other channel, which means one of two things. Either there is activity out here that some would believe to be Bigfoot, or every tree that falls in the forest falls the same way and they all fall into X's and floaters.
Yeah.
So, you know, people can take their judgment on there. And I do have a background in archaeology, by the way. I went to University of South Florida and studied mass communications, photojournalism, and archaeology, specifically underwater archaeology. I was a big Mel Fisher, the treasure salvager kind of guy. Right. So I was into scuba diving, and I was going for my dive masters, and I was doing everything underwater. I was booked to do the Warm Mineral Springs dive way back in the 70s when they were checking out Warm Mineral Springs in Florida, which is a 100-foot deep dive into a straight shaft cave system.
Yeah, that's true. But that's
so.
God bless you for. I mean, that's cool. That's cool. It's something I could never do, but you know,
it got canceled, so I never made it.
No, well, we are literally almost at an hour 30. This has gone well, actually. You know, obviously we'll get Justin back on here with Matt because, you know, now I really want to see you and Justin interact, especially with these questions on how it's filming technique and everything like that. So we'll get that rescheduled at obviously a later point. But I want to thank everybody for hanging with us. And, you know, Matt, I can't thank you enough for coming on here. It's, you know, it's been great. Everybody, you know, Matt Larson, Central Florida Bigfoot, go check his channel out. Justin's channel is Mountain Beast Mysteries. You know, even though I hope we did it, you know, valid cred by talking about how cool it is. But, you know, and I'm sure everybody on here, you know, has heard of it or seen it. I hope everybody has. But with that being said, we will, Carrie will be back home hopefully tomorrow, and we'll see what happens on Sunday night, which I have no idea about. But again, thanks everybody. Matt, again, thanks a ton. Central Florida Bigfoot, everybody check it out. Let's get him to 1,000. So if he wants to go live, he can without using StreamYard. So with that being said, everybody have a good evening and stay safe, and talk at you. Bye.